Hey there, folks. Jordan Chariton live. Breaking news, as was presumably expected. The a suspected um, suspect has been arrested for the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This happened this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, which is in the western part of Pennsylvania. I have been there 2 or 3 times actually. Happens to be fun fact, was number 3 on Hitler's bombing list back during World War II because it was the steel crossings of the world. Weapons ran through Altoona because Altoona was a major manufacturer of steel, which obviously was used in the war. So he was arrested in Altoona. His name, again, suspect. Uh, his name is Luigi Mangione. Um, Here's some details. This is from Ken Klippenstein, a journalist who's been reporting on this since it happened last week. Some details about Luigi Mangione per public records I've reviewed. He's a Philadelphia resident. He worked for the University of Pennsylvania Board of Trustees, and he was registered to vote in 2016. So lives in Philly and worked for University of Pennsylvania. Smash the like button, by the way. Share this live stream. Obviously, this is breaking. The NYPD commissioner just spoke a short while ago, so I will update you as we go. But definitely smash the like button because I don't. I hope this story is not going to go away just because he's been caught. This shooter, and if this is him again, I'll use the word suspect. Um, he has kind of awoken a sleeping beast, which is the millions and millions of victims of the predatory, evil, for-profit healthcare system. We don't know the full story yet, but based on a manifesto that was found on him, it seems, as we expected, his motives were clear, an animosity and hatred towards private healthcare. Gonna guess that they're not going to release his manifesto, but they should. I don't think they want to release his manifesto because they don't want to further pour gasoline on the flames, which is the American people, the starving, sick masses. But let me give you more details. Here's live updates. Man arrested in Pennsylvania had a ghost gun this is from CNN, Colin. Man arrested. I'll give you time to scroll down on that document. Man arrested in Pennsylvania had a ghost gun that may have been 3D printed. He was found with a ghost gun by local police at a McDonald's. He was in possession of a ghost gun that had the capacity of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor. Kenny added that the gun may have been 3D printed and that police will learn more details after ballistics testing. Ghost guns are untraceable, self-assembled firearms, often put together with parts sold online, sometimes in as little as 30 minutes. The weapons sometimes referred to by officials as, quote, privately made firearms, or PMFs, do not have serial numbers, making them all the more difficult to track and regulate. As part of his manifesto, which they have not released in full, quote, it had to be done, says documents found on Person of Interest. Among the lines in the 2-page document found on, quote, strong person of interest, Luigi Mangione, are the following 2 quotes. These parasites had it coming, and I, quote, do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done, a police official who has seen the document told CNN. In the note, Mangione says he acted alone and that he was self-funded. The document railed against the healthcare industry and suggested violence is the answer, according to the official. Before I go further and smash that like button, share this live stream. By the way, we're up 13,000 subscribers since Friday. So welcome if you're new here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hey, Colin, do you think if a brown or immigrant shot down anyone in America and they were caught and had a manifesto on them, you think more than a few words would be released right away?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I was trying to remember. I'm pretty sure each time there's been a manifesto, they usually release the full thing unless there's like private details or something like that, or if there's some weird altered factor like that. But other than that, I'm pretty sure they usually release them pretty quickly, or at least a pretty good summary.
I mean, in fairness, this happened this morning. So benefit of the doubt, maybe they'll release more. I'm going to strongly suspect not, because I don't think, to the elitists on CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times, they are aghast. And we've done videos the last few days during this manhunt. They're aghast that so many Americans are gleeful and happy about this. So I don't think they want to release more. For those of you who didn't know, for a long time, they were trying to suppress Osama bin Laden's manifesto. And, people in the military and, military industrial complex were angry that it was resurfacing on TikTok, so that, people on TikTok who might have never saw it saw the motivation for bin Laden. Not that I'm approving of what bin Laden did, but these folks, they want this predatory for-profit healthcare system to continue. By the way, and we might do a deeper dive into this, a lot of CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, and all these media outlets, a lot of their advertisers are Pfizer and UnitedHealthcare and Aetna. You think they want to release manifestos to further cover and elaborate to the masses what these companies do to people? And speculation, but I'm presuming this suspect didn't just willy-nilly choose Brian Thompson. I'm assuming he or his loved ones had experience with United Healthcare. Could be wrong. We'll find out. By the way, he had to kind of know the movements of Brian Thompson. So it remains to be seen whether he was acting alone. So far, that's what they're saying, but we don't really know. But I want to repeat, quote, these parasites had it coming. And I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done. He says he acted alone and that he was self-funded. Okay, we'll see. But to be clear, again, I hate that I have to keep disclaiming it. I'm not saying go get your guns and shoot up people, but other upset, angry people, whether it's against pharmaceutical and healthcare companies, whether it's against the fossil fuel industry, whether it's against the military industrial complex and defense contractors, whether it's against Silicon Valley, Elon Musk, name your person. They are going to look at this and say, wow, in the presidential debates, healthcare was not even really mentioned. In politics, since Bernie, I mean, Biden ran on a public option, abandoned it very quickly. In the remaining years, it's been very little coverage, discussion on healthcare. And this guy, again, suspect, he'll have his day in court. He was able to unleash, a tsunami of reaction all over the country, all over the world, really. So other people might be convinced to kind of do some copycat efforts. Now, as I'm going to tell you in a minute, corporate America, whether it be private healthcare, Wall Street, they are right now, the phones are off the hook at security firms. They are going to build a higher, wider fortress around these companies, these CEOs. It's going to be very hard to get to them. However, that doesn't mean this is not going to motivate people to do more, because they're saying, hey, we've been protesting. We've been doing a healthcare protest. We've been voting. We've been doing everything you tell us we're supposed to do in a democracy, and nothing's happening. Well, this guy, with one action, was able to, awaken this sleeping beast. So again, I'm not condoning violence. I'm not calling for it, but what was it JFK said? Let me get the quote. JFK, peaceful revolution, violence is inevitable. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Violent revolution inevitable. And smash that like button. We got 1,600 people watching. We could definitely, I want to get more people in here. Let me give you a little bit more on this as I know it. Hold on. 1 second. Authorities say they believe the person of interest acted alone. Investigators believe Luigi Mangione, the person of interest in the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO, acted alone. We believe at this point our investigation is leaning towards he was acting alone, said NYPD chief. Let's play the NYPD commissioner announcing that they arrested this suspect.
Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world, and of course, the strong relationships we have with our local law enforcement partners. On every level, local, state, and federal, we all serve the same public safety mission. And this case, which captured the attention of an entire nation, is another example of how connected we are and how important it is to work together, share information, and pursue every lead.
So that was the NYPD commissioner, Jessica Tisch, who is, by the way, circle of life, the daughter of the Tisch family, which is one of the wealthiest families in the country. So it's all connected. Listen, I mean, I'll say this. You don't have to condone outright vigilante justice or gunning down CEOs to say the response to this kind of shows everything in terms of why it is this man was so hated, why it is so many people are gleeful. I want to play for you the CEO of United Health Group, who is the parent company of UnitedHealthcare, Andrew Kitty. He was talking in a video to UnitedHealthcare workers. It was leaked, so this was not supposed to be public, where he basically says the quiet part out loud. We deem what is necessary and unnecessary care, and scolds you sick peasants for being gleeful that Thompson, who, by the way, as I reported earlier, go check out my video that we just dropped like an hour ago, Thompson, the CEO, was presiding over UnitedHealthcare's massive artificial intelligence scam, which was increasing denials by 90%. They were literally using AI bots to deny care to granny and older people to the point of kicking them out of rehabilitation homes. Definitely watch my video. It's disgusting. But Colin, let's play this clip if people haven't seen it, where basically his boss is scolding you and saying you will like the care that we deem necessary.
I'm sure everybody has been disturbed by the amount of negative and in many cases vitriolic media and commentary that has been produced over the last few days, particularly in the social media environment. And I want to reassure you of a few things. Firstly, we are going to continue to make sure that we put patients, consumers, and members first, as we always have done. The mission of this company is truly to make sure that we help the system improve by helping the experience for individuals get better and better. There was nobody who did more to try and advance that mission than Brian Thompson. And there are very few people in the history of the US healthcare industry who had a bigger positive effect on American healthcare than Brian. And we are going to make sure that we not only acknowledge and honor that legacy of Brian, but we'll continue it. Our role is a critical role, and we make sure that care is safe, appropriate, and is delivered when people need it. And we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care or for unnecessary care to be delivered in a way which makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable. So we're going to continue to make that case. We will continue to do the work we do. And I have never been more proud of this company and our colleagues and what this company does on behalf of people in need across the country. I encourage you to tune out that critical noise that we're hearing right now. It does not reflect reality.
In the words of Luigi Mangione, the suspect, these parasites had it coming. Again, I'm not saying go get your guns and shoot up anybody. I don't think violence is the answer. With that said, that is a parasite, and he was the boss of Brian Thompson. Who are they? Who are they to deem what is necessary care or unnecessary care? This is literally a healthcare Hunger Games. His salary, his benefits, his stock portfolio, his yearly dividend or bonuses is based on deeming the most care unnecessary. Same with Brian Thompson. Same with Aetna. Same with Anthem. Same with name your group. And it's not just for-profit healthcare. We could go down the list to other industries. Their business model is based on how much care they can deprive, whether for things as simple as knee replacement or cancer. I'm sure you have seen, and we have been reporting it since this happened last week, the horror stories. I'm interviewing somebody, I've been messaging people on Reddit, and I'm interviewing somebody tomorrow who literally their mother's cancer scan for cancer. The mother already had cancer. It went away. The mother suspected that it had come back. A healthcare company literally said, we're not going to approve your scan because time-wise, you need to wait another 12 weeks to get another scan because you had a scan semi-recently. This would have saved them, I don't know, maybe a few $1,000s. Well, in that 12 weeks that she had to wait, the cancer did indeed come back, and she died. Partially because she didn't get that scan early enough to start treatment. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with. And this guy, we need to safeguard against the system. Make sure it's not too complex. Yes, how complex it would be if we, like every other country in the civilized world, most of them far less wealthy than us, simply provided health care. You just pay a little bit more in taxes and you get a whole lot more and you save money. And by the way, I don't care if you're a liberal. I don't care if you're on the left. I don't care if you're on the right. It doesn't really matter. Remember, during 2016, 2020 campaigns, the media fed you the lie that this was going to take away your holy, beloved private health insurance. And people love their private health insurance. Well, judging by the mass outrage and mass glee to this CEO's murder, it seems people don't love their private health insurance. It seems people hate it. It seems it is killing people. It seems it is shortening people's lives. It seems it is affecting people's mental health negatively. It seems it is causing trauma for families. People don't love their private health insurance. But we live in the United Corporations of America. We don't have a government anymore. We have a multi-trillion-dollar corporate conglomerate masquerading as a representative democracy. That's why during the campaigns, when you kept hearing, oh, democracy is at stake, democracy is at stake. Well, let me ask you, what kind of democracy is it if you vote for people to represent you and then they take money from for-profit private healthcare like UnitedHealthcare, who then literally serve as the life or death gatekeepers to life or death treatment? That's not democracy. That's deathocracy, if that's a phrase. And by the way, we've covered the protest. We're going to show you some of them. We've covered Medicare for All protests. We've covered protests against the privatization of Medicare. In New York City, we covered protests because New York City Mayor Eric Adams, when he wasn't busy illegally ripping off his constituents and taking flights paid for by the country Turkey, he was trying to backdoor move seniors in New York City from Medicare, which they paid into for 30 to 40 working years, to privatize Medicare Advantage against their will. We've covered them all. So people have been protesting and nothing's been changing. And healthcare costs have gone up since the affordable healthcare, Obamacare. It's just disgusting. And smash the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you're new here. I don't know if you know, we are one of the only independent outlets in the United Corporations of America who actually goes on the ground. We cover protests. I've covered Flint, which still doesn't have clean water after 10 years, which, if you don't know, was part of a Wall Street privatization scheme. The media didn't tell you that, did it? That Wall Street helped poison the people of Flint. It's in my book, We the Poisoned, Exposing the Flint Water Cover-Up, which came out this summer. Get it if you can. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's now on Audible, too. Biggest government cover-up of the 21st century that literally the Democrats and Republicans are in on, and the media is in on. And it's all connected because guess what? It's all connected. Guess what? In Flint, if you were poisoned, you only got a short-term Medicaid extension if you were under 21. So it didn't just poison young people. It poisoned all people, adults, elderly. They didn't get that Medicaid expansion. So that is long gone. And I talked to residents, the ones that haven't died, because I know a lot of people in Flint that have died. And it wasn't just lead. It was bacteria. It was TTHMs, which are cancer-causing carcinogens that were in that water. They are going bankrupt because their health insurance won't cover the specialist environmental doctors that they need for poisoned water. Regular doctors don't know how to treat heavy metal poisoning, bacterial contamination. So this is in Flint. Same thing going on in East Palestine, Ohio, which we've covered on the ground. We've been there 8 times. If you don't know, because in America, after mass shootings or if a multi-billion-dollar railroad company unnecessarily blows up a community like East Palestine, the media covers it for a week and then forget. Well, we've been there 8 times and continue to cover it. I'm doing an investigative story right now on the EPA lying and hiding from the people of East Palestine and Pennsylvania who breathe in all those toxic chemicals from the train. They are not getting the care they need. Their insurance companies are denying them for testing for the chemicals that they've been exposed to. I was there twice in the last 6 months. I got sick both times there. People from East Palestine are very sick. They can't get the health care they need. And these are people in corporate sacrifice zones. Literally communities that have been sacrificed, which is becoming more and more prevalent around the U.S. So I don't know this guy's story. I don't know what radicalized him, but there's more Luigis out there, and they're going to see this, and there are people that are going to want to take matters into their own hands. But the media's response and the government's response is, let's figure out how to build a tighter fortress around these CEOs. Not, hey, maybe we should look into these predatory, for-profit, evil companies that millions of Americans are actually happy when their CEOs are getting murdered. Maybe we should actually look into that. Colin, I mentioned we do on-the-ground reporting, one of the few outlets that are independent that actually leave the studio and go out there and cover what the corporate media is covering up, which you could support, by the way, if you're new here. You could support this on-the-ground reporting for as low as $5 a month. Join us, statuscoup.com/join. I want to play you a clip from one of the healthcare protests we covered. Hear this woman's story. It is outrageous that she was fighting, I believe it was with UnitedHealthcare, for just basic coverage of medication she needed. And I think it was UnitedHealthcare, kept denying her. We are often the only outlet actually out covering these protests. Play that clip, Colin.
Been on and off Medicaid my entire adult life. I've had symptoms including chronic migraines, shortness of breath, fatigue, insomnia, and cognitive decline since I was 3 years old. Nobody could explain why I had these symptoms, and medical professionals did not believe me when I said I was experiencing these things. After fighting for 20 years, I was finally diagnosed this past October with neurocardiogenic dysautonomia. Basically, this means that the things my body's supposed to do automatically to regulate itself it doesn't do it. I have chronic insomnia that started when I was just a toddler. I remember getting in trouble for not sleeping almost every night during primary school. I remember I eventually got onto a medication in adulthood that allowed me to get some sort of sleep. But 5 years ago, my Medicaid managed care plan through UnitedHealthcare got moved over to UnitedHealthcare. UHC said that the sleep medication I'd been on for years to manage my chronic and severe insomnia wasn't covered. The only alternative they suggested to me was a medication meant for those with acute onset of insomnia precipitated by a traumatic event that's expected to last no longer than 5 to 7 days, which is fancy speak for people that are suffering short-term insomnia due to something bad that just happened to them, and it's not supposed to happen. They're not expected to have sleep disturbances for any longer than a week. The manufacturer's website for the drug warned that it's absolutely not to be used for any longer than 1 week. But the person I was speaking to at the insurance company didn't want to hear it. Without medication, I will go days without being able to sleep. These companies have so many of us convinced that because we struggle to pay for healthcare, that we're the bad people, that it's our fault that we're suffering. They're counting on our shame to keep us silent. But I'm here to say that I won't be silent anymore. We won't be silent anymore. This is a systemic problem. And we are coming together to demand that these insurance corporations stop denying our care and that lawmakers hold these predatory companies accountable for how they are treating us.
We are calling you to demand change. I know what it feels like to have medically recommended procedures denied pre-authorization, dangerously resulting in delayed care. That ain't right. That ain't right. I know what it feels like to have medical debt because of denied claims. That ain't right. That ain't right. I'm here to add my voice to the thousands of others across this nation who've had enough of paying high premiums, deductibles, and co-insurance, or whatever else they want to call it, only to be denied access to healthcare professionals and recommended treatments. Gatekeeping and profiteering at our expense must stop now. Yeah! Be transparent about denied money value. Share complete details around these demand claims and denied prior authorizations by market, state, geography, gender, and race.
That's right.
Share the monetary value of total denied claims and denied pre-authorizations.
Yeah.
3, be transparent about how much denials drive your profits. Share the total percentage of profits taken by denying care to us, your members. Hold monthly open mic meetings. Don't be afraid. Meet
So
with policy
that's just one protest. We've covered a hell of a lot more than that. And the first woman, indeed, was UnitedHealthcare. They've gone out. They've protested. And by the way, this is really not a political issue. I mean, polls show that even nearly 50% of Republicans believe in, call it what you want, Medicare for all, universal health care. I reached out to Wendell Potter. I think I'm going to interview him this week. He used to be a big pharma executive, and he is now a whistleblower acknowledging I was paid to lie about the Canadian healthcare system. How they lie about, countries with single payer. There's big pharma executives now that have seen the light saying, we were paid millions to fearmonger and put out propaganda about how bad the single payer system is in other countries, and it was all bullshit. Not that there's not problems in those countries. It's not that it's completely smooth sailing. Sure, you have to wait for certain things. But if you need life or death care, you get it in most other countries. Here, it's how much money you have. And by the way, the quote and what Bernie Sanders talks about, 70,000 people die a year without health care. That's not counting all the people dying with health care. That's not counting all the people whose lives are being shortened with health care. How do you even quantify that? I want to show you this. If you haven't seen it, we covered for many years a gentleman, his name's Scott Denoyer, and his son, Danny, was taking necessary medication for his mental health. He had a mental health issue that without this medication, he could get very depressed, have, and severe psychological symptoms, including suicidal thoughts. Well, he was under Fidelis Care, which is now Centene. And because of a $20 bill, an unpaid $20 bill, Fidelis cut him off. And he could not pay for his medication. And his parents didn't have the out-of-pocket money. I think it was $300-400 to go get his medication. They called, and Fidelis said you'd have to wait till the first of the month to re-sign up. Well, in some cases, it's physical, like cancer coming back. In other cases, with mental health, and I've suffered from depression, you can't wait a month because without your medication, you're going to go mad. There's no other phrase for it. Well, he did, off of his medication, get severely depressed and suicidal to the point that he drove his car after taping his seatbelt. He drove his car into a river and ended his life. And his father has had to live with that. I actually reached out to his father to do an interview since this happened. I don't think he would mind me saying he's just not in the best mental state right now. And he couldn't do the interview right now, which I understood. But this is the kind of shit going on in America, in a democracy, in the wealthiest country on earth, that people who need life-saving mental health treatment or medication can't get it for a $20 bill. People who need to get that cancer screening, if they've had cancer or fear they have, well, you got to wait 12 weeks. Or you got to go through 3 faceless bureaucrats to get approved. What kind of sick system is this? Colin, let's play my coverage. This was on Easter, by the way. Let's play my coverage from that protest.
Just half a second. It's almost done uploading.
No problem. And while we're waiting for that, smash the like button, share this live stream so we can get it out to people. If you're new here, definitely subscribe. We're up like 13,000 subscribers since Friday. So awesome if you found us. If you don't know, we've covered the healthcare horror story, the healthcare Hunger Games for years. So this is not our first rodeo, but here is more of our on-the-ground reporting on protests that no other media care to go and cover.
And the families of those murdered and suffer while those maladjusted to injustices remain silent.
Honestly, I got into the New York Health Act and it didn't even occur to me it would cover people who didn't have insurance, because I was so focused at the racist ways our state funds healthcare right now and how significantly that disadvantages the public hospitals in New York City that serve Black New Yorkers, that serve people of the global majority, that serve immigrant New Yorkers, that the quality of care is night and day between private and public hospitals, and that private hospitals are only able to segregate their patient populations so that they can make more money because we have a separate and unequal system of insurance. Even if everybody had insurance under Medicaid, as long as we have a private and public insurance, we have a separate and unequal system of paying for people's health care, and we will continue to see the healthcare disparities that we created and have only gotten worse since chattel slavery. When in 1850, the black-white infant mortality ratio was 1 to 1.5. Today it's 1 to 3. It's gotten worse. And the reason why, or one of the reasons why, is because the public insurance that 2/3 of Black birthing people use spends half as much on obstetric care than the private insurance that 2/3 of white birthing people use.
Say their name so we will give them a voice. Say their name because they are not numbers. They were our loved ones. We constitute this republic called the United States of America. And when our rights to healthcare, life, and happiness with our loved ones are restored, then and only then we shall be whole again. Thank you so much. Woo, yeah!
So we're out here with Scott Denoyer, and I was just telling them a little bit about the background with your son, if they didn't know. Today is the 4-year anniversary?
Yep. Yeah, it's a 4-year anniversary. It was April 9th of 2019 that we lost Daddy because, you know, he was late paying his Medicaid plan, so they cut him off of his medicine, risperidone, which has a known suicidal risk. I mean, he subsequently superglued his seatbelt shut and drove his truck into the Mohawk River after giving us a suicide note. Fidelis Care, founded by Father Patrick Frawley in 2018, originally as a nonprofit organization, but he still received a very hefty salary. I might add that Father Frawley...
I just want to add, this father, since it's Easter, 2018, $5.3 million. $5.3 million from Fidelis Care. This is a reverend who made that much money just a few years ago. I don't know how much now, but that was just a few years ago.
Well, he was promoted to VP of Centene and given the title Social Responsibilities. I believe his titles or his pay is only $4.9 million a year now, but I could be wrong. And his tenure is pending as they had a shakeup, as Centene also lost Michael Neerdoff in 2019, a couple months before our last action. Or 20. What we lost, Neerdoff was lost last year. But anyway, Father Frawley now gets paid $4.9 million a year to deny Medicaid patients the health care that they need to live. The poorest among us, the health care that they need to live. Like I said in my speech, I'm not very religious, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and pretend that I am. Father Frawley is. He wears that collar for every photo shoot that he has, and yet his God's teachings was to heal the sick, to help the poor, the impoverished. He's not doing that. He's enriching himself off of their pain, their suffering, by making sure Danny didn't get his medicine. That's $250 that goes to his company. He got pennies off of Danny's life. Not even probably a penny. So what we're saying is, on Easter Sunday, if you truly are a man of God, you need to step down from your legalized manslaughter for profit and support us fighting for the New York Health Act, supporting, fighting for mass care for, whole Washington. Any single-payer universal health care bill that removes the insurance mafia from our health care system, that demands we pay them if we get sick, if our child gets sick. How should we pay them profits to make sure that somebody else profits from their medical condition? It ain't right, and we need to change the system. And that's what we're doing. We're making sure that we remove insurance companies' profit motive from our healthcare system so that everybody has the healthcare they need when they need it, regardless of their ability to pay for it.
And what's really extra nauseating about this is Danny called the healthcare company, paid the bill, $20, and they said, okay, you'll be added back in a month. Well, I don't know if they just have an automated system or a human being didn't look up the medication that he was being denied, but this is life or death for many people, if whether it be a physical thing like insulin or a mental health medication for mental health issues. Couldn't wait 30 days. His mind was not capable of waiting 30 days, and the thoughts went dark, and obviously we know what happened. Can you kind of talk about what kind of system just makes it like dollars and cents? Oh, you'll just wait 30 days when, like you said, this was over pennies to this company. They could have just put him back on immediately.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at all these other healthcare stories, we've heard about Amy Villela, who lost her daughter, Shalyn. Shalyn went to get checked out for a blood clot. She's suspected because she was in school for I think a nurse she was studying for. And she had all these symptoms, and she's like, listen, doc, check this out. He's like, what's your insurance? Shalyn's like, I'm not really sure if I have it. So the doctor's like, Shalyn, these tests are thousands of dollars, and you can't afford that. I think it's okay for you to drive home 22 hours on your ripped Achilles heel, even though you have sickle cell traits and you're on birth control. But go ahead, Shalyn, it's okay to drive 22 hours. When Shalyn got home, she showed her mom her bruised knee. Amy was a CFO of an insurance company. I'm not even sure if you're aware of that. But she goes, Shalyn, I got an important meeting I got to go to. Give me a few minutes, give me a bit. I'll get back to you. I love you. Probably just have a bruised knee, whatever.
So that's the American healthcare system. Yeah, you didn't pay us $20. You're out of luck. It's just nauseating. And the media will try to quickly move on from this. And the media coverage, for the most part, has either been a TikTok timeline of the shooter and what we know about the shooter. It's the same thing they do with mass shootings. They just do a TikTok timeline of, what happened, the timeline. Here's where the killer was, the guns they got. Never an examination of, why the fuck do we have such an onslaught of guns in America? Never actually digging into the politicians taking blood money so that kids could be blown up and shot up all over the world, all over the country. Not just kids, I mean, grocery stores, concerts, etc. But here, it's either the coverage has either been kind of a TikTok play-by-play of the shooting, or, geez, I wonder why people are so outraged. And the media is not actually having people who have been sick, denied care. They're not having those people on. I am going to. I have an interview lined up tomorrow, actually. They're just having, the same wealthy, elite pundits on who, I could promise you, if they're on CNN and elsewhere, have great health insurance and aren't routinely denied anything. Oh, by the way, Chris Cuomo, who also scolded the masses, former CNN anchor, he's now on News Nation, he said, hey, we all understand hatred of insurance companies. I'm kind of going, my family's a little cross with an insurance company right now. Yeah, the difference is you have a net worth of, I believe it was $12 million. So if you're denied care, or your kids are denied care, I think you have enough money under the pillow to cover it. I want to read to you, this is from Fox News. I think it came out this morning. The response, again, from these insurance companies and big corporations is not to, hey, maybe we should examine why we're hated and maybe look into our practices. It's how do we build the fortress higher? How do we build larger and wider gates? Headline, UnitedHealthcare CEO murder sends executives scrambling to hire security. A manhunt gripped New York City after UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was killed in a targeted shooting. The Wednesday assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson will heighten executives' awareness of vulnerabilities and likely lead to a wave of new security contracts, experts told Fox News Digital. In an ambush caught on surveillance video, a gunman with his face covered aimed a pistol with a silencer at Thompson at 6:46 a.m. This was written before this arrest. Again, who they arrested is the suspect. So, likely is the person who killed him. But right now you want to say suspect and alleged. Former New York Homeland Security Advisor Michael Balboni told Fox News Digital that at least one prospective client, the head of a large financial institution, I'd love to know which one. I'm going to go with JP Morgan, but just speculation. Specifically mentioned the shooting when calling to ask after an executive protection assessment through his company. Quote, in the short term, the incident highlights the need to perform threat assessments on not just infrastructure or systems, but key personnel as well. As a result, security personnel should be busy. Hey, can we do a threat assessment on the American people? Because I got news for you. All this talk and hubbubaloo about, the biggest national security threat is Russia or China. No. The biggest national security threat is capitalism with a side of your water, because our water is contaminated all over the country, which we have covered extensively while the rest of the media totally ignores it. But the biggest threat to your security is capitalism, because if you don't have enough money, even if you have health insurance, you might not get coverage. Sorry. If you don't have enough money, you might lose your home. Right now, we're trying to grow our funding. So please sign up if you're not yet a member, statuscoup.com/join, because there are literally victims of Hurricane Helene who are literally sleeping in tents in North Carolina, nearly freezing to death in very, very frigid winter weather. Hurricane victims sleeping in tents because FEMA money ran out. So they were basically kicked out of the motels that they were put up on. If we're being honest, Republicans have largely voted no against more FEMA funding. So this is largely one side is depriving the necessary FEMA funds, but there are Americans sleeping out in tents right now in the freezing cold that are victims through no fault of their own of a hurricane. So capitalism seems to be the biggest national security threat, but you're not seeing threat assessments on capitalism. You're not seeing threat assessments for the for-profit healthcare system, because we are under threat. And even if you have health insurance, there's no guarantee, particularly in times of inflation, gentrification, which is driving prices up. People don't have the extra money to pay all these out-of-pocket costs, these surprise medical bills, deductibles, copays, you name it. Every year, the deductible resets, like many of yours has, now that it's December. Let me continue because the story gets better. But in long term, complacency will return, he added. Retired NYPD detective Pat Brosnan, the CEO of Brosnan Investigations Group and former head of Brosnick Risk Consultants, told Fox that the killing had, quote, already within hours of the murder, prompted meetings of high-level chief security officers around the country. Quote, these emergency meetings were prompted by the extraordinary circumstances surrounding Thompson's murder. A clearly targeted early morning assassination by a calm and eerily unrushed assassin with clear proficiencies in handling the weapon. The wherewithal and foresight to outfit the weapon with a very difficult to obtain silencer and likely most disturbing possession of insider information regarding the target's schedule. His methodical and calm fixing of the weapon when it jammed likely sent an ice pick of fear into each of the chief security officers. An ice pick of fear. In exactly this type of apparent professionalism, linear focus on his mission, and precise exit strategy, coupled with specific intelligence as to the target's movements that keep security officers up late at night. Listen, I feel bad for his kids. I feel bad for his wife. I mean, I am human, but I got to say, I'm not going to sit here and lose sleep over a greedy, for-profit, private healthcare CEO. I think he made $10 million a year. Based on my reporting, I just did a video on it earlier, by the way. He was presiding over UnitedHealthcare's extended use of AI to deny patients care, particularly elderly patients, seniors. So they were using basically AI algorithms and bots to deny care, getting it wrong upwards of 90%. This delayed care, and in many cases, expedited people dying because they were denying care. Why aren't we calling Brian Thompson an assassin? Why aren't we calling the for-profit healthcare executives assassins? Maybe they didn't shoot the gun, but they certainly created and pushed the system that is killing people. And it's not just killing people, it's shortening people's lives. The stress, if you are a cancer patient or you're already older or have health problems, and you then have to deal with the stress of being on the phone with these insurance companies for hours, not knowing if you're going to get kicked out of your rehabilitation home, not knowing if you're going to get the treatment you need, if you're a parent, not knowing if your kid is going to get the treatment they need. I'm going to read one email. This is not life or death, but it's scary if this is your kid. This came from a viewer earlier today. I won't read the person's name, but this came from a viewer, just one story out of millions of stories. My young son has asthma. His asthma is exacerbated by viral respiratory infections. He has been in the emergency room every year and hospitalized once when these viral exacerbations left him very, very ill. Last year, he once again spent the night in the ER when he got a virus. We were allowed to go home and follow up with his pediatricians the next day. The pediatrician said he was still wheezing significantly and wanted him to start a steroid inhaler. I went to the pharmacy to fill the prescription and was told that insurance did not want to cover it because it was too expensive. What a coincidence. That's also why I didn't want to pay for it. The therapeutic alternative they offered was a dry powder inhaler. Dry powder inhalers differ from the typical puff inhaler you may be imagining. With a dry powder inhaler, you have to suck in a dry powder. At the time, my toddler didn't even tolerate a traditional inhaler well. I had to wrap him in a blanket and hold him down to use his inhaler with a spacer and a mask. This was traumatizing enough for him. There is no way he would have been physically capable of using a dry powder inhaler. I spent hours on the phone explaining this to various people at the insurance company. The resolution was that I could submit for an appeal, but it would take at least a week. He had been given a dose of dexamethasone in the emergency room, which would last for about 3 days. I didn't have a week to wait to see if his albuterol inhaler could hold him over until then. I was risking another hospitalization. So what did I do? I put the inhaler on my credit card. I believe it was almost $300. I didn't have $300 to pay at the time, but I did have a credit card. It wasn't a life-ruining amount of money, but it was a kick in the teeth, especially given how much we pay for our monthly healthcare premiums. Overall, it was just the sickening disregard for my son that bothered me the most. I understand offering therapeutic substitutions that are cheaper, but even after I explained why the therapeutic substitution was not possible for my son, that wasn't the end of the conversation. They wanted to delay the possibility of approving my claim, hoping that I would just shell out the money for it myself. And I did. How do these people sleep at night? How do they justify withholding an inhaler from an asthmatic toddler? That's just one story. And not even the worst I've read. It's really just disgusting. It's really just disgusting. So, and by the way, welcome new Status Coup member Rodney just signed up, and welcome new $20 Status Coup member Joshua. And if you're new here, we're doing a special promotion for the end of the year. So if you sign up as a Status Coup member at $20 a month, definitely one of our higher levels, you can become a member at $5 a month, $10 a month, and $20 a month. For $20 members, I'm sending out a free copy of my book, We the Poisoned, Exposing the Flint Water Cover-Up. if you sign up at $20 a month, you'll get a free copy of my book signed by me with a personal note. We have about 8 copies left, but the more people that sign up, I'll get more. So definitely sign up at the $20 level, and I'll send you out a free copy of my book signed by me with a personal note. I've sent out about 8 so far. Would love to send more. That $20 a month level, if you can't afford it, totally understand. But if you can, not only would you be funding or helping to fund the only independent outlet in the United Corporations of America, routinely on the ground, not just in a studio, on the ground, covering the United Corporations of America, covering the victims. We've done repeated economic reporting trips. We did reporting trips during the pandemic, talking to people who were getting evicted from their homes, talking to people struggling to pay for health care. We've done reporting trips during the inflation crisis of the last few years. I've been on the ground in Flint. I've been on the ground in East Palestine. We've been on the ground in Atlanta, Georgia, covering the protest against Cop City. We've been on the ground we've gone on the ground covering poverty, interviewing the homeless. We do something very radical these days. Instead of 24/7 hot takes, we actually do on the ground investigative journalism. It's not sexy. It costs money. I would like to hire more reporters. I'd like to hire more producers, but I need the funding because we don't get funding from UnitedHealthcare or Aetna or Goldman Sachs or Pfizer or name your corporate villain. No money from the big banks, no money from the big pharma, no money from the fossil fuckers, no money from Silicon Valley or the military industrial complex. Our funding comes from you, the people. So keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. It means a lot, and we need to cover these things more because I got news for you. We're about to return, the rest of the media is about to return to 24/7 Trump. We're taking that other fork in the road. We're not going to cover Trump 24/7. We will cover him when we feel we should, when we feel we have something unique to offer. But we're going to be covering all the other stories the rest of the media isn't covering, which includes worker exploitation, workers unionizing, worker strikes, people being deprived of life-saving health care, water contamination, environmental genocide, corporate sacrifice zones like Flint and East Palestine and Kalamazoo, and now Conyers, Georgia, after the biolab fire that you might have not heard about because the media is barely covering it. A chemical plant went on fire in Georgia at the end of September. It unleashed chlorine gas into the air. They're telling everybody everything's fine. EPA is saying everything's fine. The local county in Georgia is saying everything's fine. Meanwhile, residents are reaching out to us because they're sick. You think their insurance companies are going to cover the testing for chemical inhalation? It's just vile. Absolutely vile. So we'll have to, definitely have to stay on this story. It's very, very important. Obviously, this killer, if this is him, obviously we put suspected in the headline because right now he is a suspect. It's alleged. We don't know for 100% if he is the killer, but according to all, the fig leaves here, he had the note on him. Again, he called them these parasites. He said something had to be done. That was found in a manifesto of sorts that they found with him. I very much doubt the media is going to release that manifesto, but it will leak somehow. It should leak. And when that manifesto leaks, we are going to read it because I think you should know the desperation, the pain, the anger that people are feeling to the point where this person, again, I'm not condoning it, but it is what it is. This person's anger and desperation against the insurance companies took him to this extreme act. I want to read you one more story. And again, I mean, you guys could find this, but I just typed in UnitedHealthcare horror stories and I found this. This was on Reddit. And I reached out to this person. I haven't heard back yet. Colin, if you have it, it's the one I sent you. My 52-year-old mom felt like her cancer had returned, was growing. They denied a scan my mom needed, saying she had to wait 8 more weeks because it had not been long enough since the last one. It was either 6 or 8 weeks. It was either 6 or 8 weeks at that point. I can't recall. It's been 13 and a half years. Again, this was UnitedHealthcare who denied the scan. This was a woman who already had cancer, yet they denied a scan when she felt it might have come back. At any rate, without the scan, chemotherapy wouldn't be restarted or any sort of radiation. We could not afford to pay thousands out of pocket. I moved back home at 25 to help care for her full time and was, for the first time since 14, not working. She was barely working. Coworkers had donated their own sick hours at work so that she could keep her insurance. We were barely scraping by. Things were stressful and money was already so very tight. After some ER visits and multiple medical issues, the time finally came. The cancer has started to spread to my mom's brain, but it was now too late for anything to be done. We were told they would have needed to start treatment weeks ago to prevent it getting to that point. And there was pretty much nothing that could really be done. We tried a few days of radiation, but she was the kindest person and cared about everyone she met. One day after we brought groceries with most of the funds we currently had left, I was driving home. She rolled down her window and handed a homeless man $20 and gave it to him with a big smile. I wasn't shocked that she had given him the money, only that it was $20, which at that time was kind of a lot for us. She looked at me and she said he needed it more than us and that we would be okay. I smiled and nodded back. We would be okay financially. That $20 was a lot to us, but it was so much more to him. We had food. The American Cancer Society had given us a gas card so we could afford to drive to and from the doctor. We were indeed going to be okay. We lost my mom when I was 25 and my brother was 24. It had made relationships difficult at times, and things like weddings, holidays, and birthdays are always a bit tainted with a sadness because she isn't there to enjoy them, nor is our dad. He passed away a few years ago. I really think the reason my brother hasn't had his wedding yet after a few years of being engaged, is because it can't handle the thought of them not being there. UnitedHealthcare robbed us of more time with my mom. Maybe she wouldn't have lived another year with the scan and chemo when she first noticed returning symptoms, or maybe she would have lived a few years. We don't really know. But without the scan, without the chemo, without the radiation, they were actively taking coins out of the meter of her life instead of just refusing to feed it. UnitedHealthcare profits not just by denying claims, but also largely profits by delaying services. They hold on to their money and save thousands of dollars on my mom and people like her by essentially letting her die more quickly and not having to pay for additional chemotherapy or for radiation, extra doctor visits, and fewer overall hospital bills. This is America, folks. This is America, folks. Or as JFK said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. You might, the media could howl and scowl all they want that people are, aghast at this. But at the end of the day, you don't think there's going to be more violence? You don't think as people become more and more desperate? You don't think as prices continue to go up? You don't think as we continue to have no change in the healthcare system? Biden ran on a public option. He abandoned it very quickly. Trump's not running on anything. He was asked in an interview yesterday, what is your healthcare plan? He continues to say, we have concepts for a healthcare plan. People continue to be flooded with medical bankruptcies, not to mention all the other costs going up, from rent to housing. Wall Street has been allowed to become even more of a predator by buying up housing all over the country and then doubling the price. There's going to be people who feel they have nothing left to lose, whether it was them personally who were denied or their loved ones, not to mention people who might be terminal. It might be harder to get to these CEOs or people in the healthcare company. That doesn't mean people won't try. And they could spend all the money they want, these companies, on an army of private security, build gates around the offices. You can. That doesn't mean the hate goes away. And that doesn't mean people won't try. You might not agree with that. I'm not calling for violence, but maybe we need to start looking into why is it that we even have this system in the first place? Why do we have health insurance companies, which are not health care? Why do we even have this system? Why is health insurance tied to employment? Who came up with that idea? Why do we have 4 or 5 levels of middlemen when we could just have a straight line to coverage? And by the way, if it's provided by the government, that doesn't mean it's government run healthcare. It's government funded healthcare. The government would not be running your healthcare, which is another propaganda technique that has been put out by for-profit healthcare companies and big pharma. So we will stay on it. We will give you updates as there's new developments. Again, this is the suspected killer. You know, I'm seeing the comments, people saying, this seems like a fall guy. I'm not sure if that's him. We don't know, but they did find a ghost gun. They did find this manifesto. And what's left, I guess, are the fingerprints. But at the end of the day, we're not as divided as the media and politicians want you to think. I don't care if you are left wing. I don't care if you're right wing. I don't care if you might disagree on a few things, like, you know, you might disagree on guns, for example. You might disagree on some cultural issues. Most people I have met, including some of the most conservative people in America, don't like this healthcare system, think it is evil. Most people I have met don't like corruption. Most people I have met think there's something wrong with politicians being flooded with money from big pharma and for-profit healthcare companies. Most people I know don't think it's right that nurses who are supposed to treat 3 to 4 patients at a time are treating 8 to 9 patients at a time at for-profit hospitals, some of whom are owned by churches. Pamela says it's sick care, not health care. I couldn't agree more. And by the way, it's better because all these people care so much about economic growth. Wouldn't it be better for economic growth if people weren't stressed out all the time? If people could get preventative care? If people weren't sick or having their lives shortened so they could spend more money in this capitalist hellscape? If you want to run for office, look at the response. I don't care if you run as a progressive. I don't care if you run working class. I don't care if you run Republican, whatever it is. If you run on universal health care, free at the point of service, yes, we'll pay a little bit more in taxes, but you'll save a lot more money. And you run on the healthcare horror stories. You run against these evil, corrupt companies. You'll do pretty damn well. You run against the media gaslighting about the system, because I don't think Bernie's messaging was always completely great. I think he obviously meant well, but sometimes he only went up to the line. He wouldn't go full scale. You can win office because this is one of the biggest issues in America. This is one of the biggest clouds hanging over working people's lives. Thank you for watching. Please, if you're new here, subscribe. We're heading towards 300,000 subscribers, and we're going to stay on this story. Please, if you're new here, consider supporting us. I'm in studio right now, but right now I'm trying to get the funding we need. I want to hit the ground, go to North Carolina so we can cover the hurricane victims sleeping in tents, nearly freezing to death. We definitely need to go back to East Palestine soon to continue to cover that corporate sacrifice zone. People are sick after a multi-billion-dollar railroad company was allowed to unnecessarily chemically nuke Ohio and Pennsylvania with over 1 million pounds of toxic chemical gas, vinyl chloride. EPA says it's all fine. Everything's fine. Don't believe your rashes. Don't believe your blood that you're peeing out. To the 6, 7, and 8-year-old girls prematurely having menstrual cycles, I've interviewed parents whose daughters at 6, 7, or 8 are having periods at 6, 7, or 8. People are having seizures, strokes. A man has double breast cancer there, which is very rare. These are the kind of stories we cover, while most of the rest of the media covers bullshit, or the independent media do hot takes over and over. So please subscribe. Please support us if you can. And if you're already a member, consider donating to help us fund these important stories. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here later.